So what has made me so excited that I changed my content calendar? It is the new custom blueprint that was announced last week by the Code Catalyst team, or by the AWS team, I would say, because we're going to look at a custom blueprint that empowers you to bring up a ChatGPT-like deployment onto your AWS account using Amazon Bedrock and Amazon and the relevant models under the hood. And for that, in this video, in the next video, I'm going to cover how this can be done and how this can be deployed. And actually, it's going to be the first time for me to deploy this. So really excited to do this for you. Let's see what happens. And I never started one of my videos looking at LinkedIn, but this time the only place where you were able to find this announcement is Duck7 posting about it on LinkedIn, and then of course a bunch of people reacting on it, because the What's New page of Code Catalyst didn't really show this, but I think that this is one of the most fascinating announcements of Code Catalyst in a while. And let's start with, what is this about? So we're going to look at a Code Catalyst blueprint that is, by the way, open source in the Code Catalyst blueprints package on GitHub, that will help us to build something like a chatbot, something like ChatGPT that you can host on your own AWS account. As you can see, features will be basic conversation, so you can talk to the bot. You will actually see what happens, the answers on it. The most important piece here is you can also train that up with your own information and also with your own prompt. But what I really love is that it brings all of this architecture up on your own AWS account. And this is going to be great because I've never managed to do anything with GenAI. And in this video, I hope that at the end, I'm going to be able to actually do this and execute this on my own AWS account. So let's have a look and let's get started. And our journey to do that does not start in Amazon Code Catalyst as you would imagine. It starts in your AWS account, where you need to go to Amazon Bedrock. Then you need to go to the model access, right, which is down here, right, on the model access piece. And here you will need to manage model access, and you will need to request for the Anthropic models, because those are used as a showcase in this blueprint. Once you have done that, just ensure that in your Code Catalyst space, and we're going to do this one of my testing spaces over here, you will have a dedicated account connection, which is the GenAI playground, and then we're off to go using a Code Catalyst blueprint to deploy this. So let's try. Start with the blueprint. Has now this bedrock GenAI chatbot. The moment that I use that, I will see the same information that I also saw on the GitHub page. It shows me what I need to do, what kind of access I do. And as you can see, I missed this piece. So let's quickly go back to the manage models and let's add that one. And this is required because you actually want to use multiple different languages in this project, right? So I needed Claude instance, and multi-image, and that's what I missed. So let's just save changes here. And after a few minutes, this should be updated. Sometimes it's also just a few seconds. I think it depends on the access model for this model over here. So let's give it a minute, and then we are ready to move ahead. And as you can see, after a few minutes, the access changed to granted. So let's jump back into Code Catalyst. And with that, we're going to just, so we have set up this in a way that we need additional permissions over here, right? So this means that I need to go to the setup of this space. I need to, it looks like, add an existing IAM role. Okay, so let's go back to the settings of this space, where we will now go to the relevant, and we will now go to manage roles in Amazon. Okay, first we need to add this role. So the add role is something that we need to do in the console. So we we first need to create this IAM role. This means that we are going to go into the console and then IAM, and we are going to create this role. Custom trust policy. Custom trust policy that we need is something that we can get down here. Okay, so let's put that in. It actually gives access to Code Catalyst. And then add permissions. I don't want to do that here. I would love to directly add the JSON. So let's go to next. And maybe we can do that here. So this is the Code Catalyst GenAI project. This is the one, right? I will need to add an inline policy over here where I can now add this JSON that was mentioned in the creation of this project. So now we should be good. Code Catalyst GenAI project. And, when cutting this for making it available on YouTube, I'm going to shortcut this a little bit. So now we should be able to over here add our IAM role as an existing IAM role, which is the one that we just created. And as you can see, there's only the roles that have Code Catalyst in it. So I'm now adding this role. Okay, now we should be ready to go to move ahead. I added the trust policy, and now let's go. Let's go next. Oh, there is an error. This is not really nice. Okay, let's see what happens. Again, my own chat GPT. And I cannot move ahead here. Okay, that's a pity. Let's go back. Let's do cancel and let's start again from scratch. So over here. Okay, my own chat GPT. And we're going to use GenAI Playground. We're going to use the role that we just set up. Okay, I don't want people to be able to register because I want them to, well, I can enable that. I want to do what is the Oregon, and then we want to have type of content. Okay, destroy repository name. My own chat GPT, and here I can add my own IP address, which is something that you should do, right? Otherwise everyone will be able to access that, but we can modify that later. So I will just leave that off for now. And now I clicked on create project, and let's see what happens. Okay, the project has been created now. We will now see the README that is also on GitHub, which has been created by the team with all of the details, because this is the source code repository that has been created. So let's have a look. Okay, cool. So this gives me now the power of this whole thing in at my fingertips, right? So I can now use this one to set up, to change this as well. So I can use this as a building block for myself, and it follows all of the best practices. As you can see, there is a bunch of stuff in it. I'm pretty excited to see this going, right? There is Python code, there's some embedding, there's some usage analysis built in, there's custom resources. This looks like a Java, like a JavaScript Lambda function or something like that. We can also see over here a CDK, which actually seems to be pretty small, right? This one is hard-coded to US East 1. Maybe I failed. I would have done that somewhere else. I assume that this deployment will now fail because I've set up my SCPs to not allow access to US East 1, but we can have a look. So now we can see here that there is a CDK stack for the front end, which brings up CloudFront and all of that kind of stuff. And then there is a CDK stack for all of the backend. Okay. What we also should see is that this is coming from the blueprint, which actually gives us the possibility to update that later. So if there is a new version of this blueprint, we can then apply this new blueprint over here. But I hope that we will also see some workflows that actually do the deployment. So let's have a look. And as you can see, there is something deploying. I would expect that this fails based on the settings in my account. But let's see. It's bootstrapping the AWS account, which makes sense because this is a brand new AWS account that I just set up a few minutes ago. It should also bootstrap US East 1, as it looks like. Then it will use pull source, download the sources. It will then start executing build frontend, and it will then at the end execute CDK deploy. And while we're waiting for that, let's see what happens. And while we're waiting for this to get deployed, I think it might make sense to just have a look a little bit more on the code. So I'm going to start off a dev environment for this project. And let's go. I want to go with main. Okay, here's the new dev environment coming up. And I wanted to check where we are with the deployment of this workflow while we're waiting. Okay, so it already used 5 minutes. As you can see, it took more than 3 minutes to set up the compute for this. This is a lot. I don't know what's going on there. That's let's see. But everything else hopefully will be smooth now. Okay, so let's see. Our instance has been coming up. And let's dive a little bit more into the source code. And I'm gonna start with, there's a few constructs. The cool thing about constructs is that we will be able to use them in our projects as well if we want to. And I'm excited to see what the costs of this deployment will be. So we're going to monitor that throughout the next days. What is really strange today is that the workflow's execution is really slow, as it looks like. Maybe they have some capacity issues. Okay. So where's the magic of this project? That's a good question. I think it's a combination of the different things. There's some event-driven as well for the embedding. Okay, the app seems to be using a Docker container, so I can't remember what it is hosted on. Here's the docs. A README in Japanese, cool. Okay, Bootstrap seems to work for both. Now we see build frontend is executing over here. While we're waiting, let's have a look on the definition of the YAML file. So here it took in the nodes, the roles that I said. What is interesting is that this it seems to be using EC2 here. I would have chosen Lambda to execute this. Well, this seems easy, like it just executes the one and only thing that it does. It executes CDK deploy, right? This seems to be pretty easy. After all of the preparations have been done. So let's see. We're still waiting for build frontend, which is now doing the npm install. And we can look into the log files over here. But yeah, it seems to be really slow today. Okay, fast forward. It added 1,608 packages. Oh my god, 680 packages. Oh my god, that's a lot, right? Interested to see what all of the packages are that are being used here. Okay, now in the workflow, we should be going to the next step, which is the deployment. Yay, and now the fascinating part starts, where we will be seeing all of that stuff being deployed into our CodeCuttle and into our AWS console. What I still didn't find out is how this is being packaged up at the end, right? So as you can see here, there is CDK. CDK then executes the build. That means that in the bin part over here, we have that ChatGPT or chatbot stack, right? Here we have the new front-end WAF stack, which I believe is going to be pretty easy. Then we have the construct over here, right, which is going to be the backend, and I would assume that this is used in the backend. So let's have a look on how this looks like. This construct is pretty lengthy, but it starts with setting up a VSPC, then setting up a vector store construct, bucket, backend, API, grant read write for this, then it sets up a document. Okay, so I'm curious to see where the Docker file is being used. So I'm trying to find out where we are referring to the backend app over here. And I need to admit I haven't found it yet. So let's keep looking while we wait for the deployment to finish, and I can cut stuff up for the record, for the publishing then. Okay, it's not here. Maybe it's in the API. There's a role, handler. This is the backend. And here uses the Docker file. So this means it's going to use the AWS this AWS CDK magic to build a Docker file from an image asset somehow, right? And it's going to build that out as well, which is then also the reason why it needs to use EC2 compute and cannot use Lambda compute, I would guess. It also means that this workflow should be taking a lot of time, and we should now see the log files in the CDK deploy action, which actually builds the Docker file. So here we can see that, right? Here it is going to build a Docker image, right, as part of the CDK deploy. No, not yet. Okay, here it's packaging up the dependencies, the assets. As you can see, tagged up the image, the index.js for the Lambda function. It's now packaging up this piece as part of the Docker file that we just looked at. And that should take a while. So this is essentially the step that is happening now, is essentially this piece, right? Which then makes it jump into the Docker file that we have over here. And this Docker file runs pip app install, it builds app, and then it exposes a port at the end. Okay, so let's have a look on the architecture. This is the backend API, a Lambda API, which will then talk to the LLM. Ah, so it runs this Docker file on Lambda. Okay, now I got it. That took me a while. Sorry for that. But that means that somewhere over here we will now see the prompts where we actually talk to Bedrock, right? So this must be over here. Oh, and it's still going. It looks like maybe... Okay, it started to provision some things. So now is where the dollars start to move on my side. And I'm actually going to start paying for this try. This means that we would also now see in our console in CloudFormation, we should now be able to see something. And here we are deploying this now most probably into US East 1, right? So that is why so here we have one stack, but there is also another stack in US East 1. So I'm going to open this up in a different page. But as you can see, it is being set up over here. Here we already have the WAF for the Bedrock chatbot, which comes with a WAF setup. whatever that means. This one is still in progress. And it's still building after a few minutes that we are on here. Okay, and just like that, my excitement has been vanished away. Just because I am getting a no space left on device. And I have an idea what the root cause for that is, but I actually cannot finish up the deployment over here. It is packaging up stuff. The compute instance that I have is pretty small, as you can see. I have not upgraded for this account. So if I go back into the settings of this account, you will see that from a billing perspective, this space is on the free tier, right? So let's have a look. From a free tier perspective, I am getting only 16 gigabytes of storage per no, that's a dev environment. Where's the compute instances? This is interesting. Oh, over here. There we are. And I guess that's going to be the root cause of that. So I'm going to need to try again, this time in a space that has been upgraded to the standard tier to be able to choose other pieces. And I'm going to do that. Just as a next step. I'm not going to record that piece again, but as you can see in the free tier, I have been getting some issues executing the workflow for this GenAI project. So I'm going to go back to actually show that. So view workflow. And over here we can see that in the free tier, this one has failed. And it has failed with the message, no space left on device. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to redeploy this over here, right? I'm going to redeploy this in a different Code Catalyst account that doesn't have the free tier but a standard tier, and I'm also going to re-trigger this deployment over here and see if maybe the next time it executes, this will be completed. So I started the re-trigger. I don't think so, but let's try. And now I'm going to stop recording and go into a different Code Catalyst space to try this out there. And just like that, it worked out as expected. So the second time that I executed the workflow, it actually did exactly what I wanted. So it deployed out the CDK, and we did not get the same problem again. So you can do this on the free tier, but maybe you need to execute the workflow twice. Now what we see is that there is a Bedrock chatbot stack deployed in the region that we have chosen. This one has a lot of details. It mainly has the distribution ID as well, and it has an auth user pool as well that you can use over here. And what you do is, if you go to the CloudFront over here, you will now get the distribution domain name, which you can then use to access your application. I just did that. I registered for a new account. And now I am directly able to talk to Bedrock chat over here, right? So let's ask it something smart. What's the newest version of AWS CDK? And let's see. But as you can see, it really works out of the box, and it has deployed all of the infrastructure that we had seen in the previous part of this video. We're going to look at that in a second. This is obviously the first time that it starts, so it's going to be a little bit slower, I assume. So the next problem that we spotted and that made us think that the blueprint did not work was a user error on my side. I had set up the models for, you can see on the right down upper side, for North Virginia. So I have access granted here for all of the required models, so Anthropic and also embedded multilingual, but it did not have the same setup for the corresponding Oregon region, which is our deployment target for our application. So now after I changed this and managed model access for the Anthropic models as well as the embedded multilingual, Now my homepage will just work as expected, my chatbot, so I can actually feed that in with my own details as well. That's pretty amazing. So I can go over here and do edit bots. I gave it some details, but I can also feed in my YouTube channel at the end. Oh, this is not gonna work. I can feed in my YouTube channel as an input. So let's try that. And maybe even a playlist, right? So I'm gonna be filling this one in as a knowledge piece, right? I can even then add one of the playlists that is maybe focused on blueprints. And I can also upload files. The moment I do that now, in the backend, this will be syncing. This means that it's going to train the bot with the information that I have. And then I can actually talk to this bot. What you can see is really that this app comes fully fledged with everything that you need to run your own GenAI workloads on AWS. It directly worked out of the box after the 2 mistakes that I did, and I think that's pretty fascinating. So I encourage you to have a look and try this blueprint out. As I already mentioned, you can also even contribute to that, so I'm going to bring that directory up in a second. Maybe last but not least, this has now been on my account for roughly 24 hours. As you can see, this account is pretty new, but it costs some money, right? So maybe we can bring that up. We can need to go to charge type and go to credit. So as you can see, $3 per day, most of it going to the vector database and some of it going to the EC2 instance, as it looks like, right? So I'll recheck this in a day or two and then see how much it actually costs. So after the bot has finished training, I can now ask him questions about Code Catalyst. So let's ask him, what are custom blueprints in Code Catalyst? And let's see what kind of answer it gives me. Essentially, this is now talking to a model information that has been trained up with my own playlist. And let's see what it found out based on transcribing my YouTube videos, which is pretty fun, right? So it gives you some information that are actually meaningful and helpful. Now, before we end this video, let's have a short look once again on the open source package. So you can find this in the Code Catalyst blueprints, then packages, blueprints, GenAI chatbot. This is the blueprint itself, but obviously now that you have deployed that into your own Code Catalyst account, you are the one that can actually modify and own this piece of code, and I'm really excited to see what you're going to be building with this. So please let me know what you built based on this blueprint, and yeah, thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.